The Vren Neurological Laboratory was silent, but for the hum of hollow displays, Dr. Krav, chief xenoneurologist, activated the Earth recording. On the display, a human female comedian in a worn leather jacket gestured, skull paint grinning across her jaw. The recording was labeled Earth Stand-Up Comedy. Krav's breathing changed. His secondary eyelids flickered, a Vren sign of deep concentration. Then his diaphragm clenched.
This muscular response. The audience was doing it in unison. Why can't I stop it?
A choked sound burst from his throat. Not a word, not a scream. A laugh, high, tight, and utterly involuntary.
Dr. Krav, your vitals.
She grabbed his shoulders. His body jerked with each burst of sound, laughter shredding his control.
Tiz, shut it off. The recording. It's doing this.
Tiz slammed the isolation field, but the hologram glitched and kept playing. The audio continued to fill the room. On the screen, the human comedian smiled and said something about credit card debt. Krav's body answered with a laugh that sounded almost like a sob, and the recording played on. 6 days earlier, cultural attaché Maria of the Vren Diplomatic Service received her next assignment, catalog Earth Performance Arts.
Stand-up comedy. Another primitive ritual in a backwater venue. The diplomatic service calls this essential cultural exchange.
That evening, she took a transport down to New York City and entered a cramped underground room filled with humans and the smell of stale alcohol. A late -30s human female in a worn leather jacket and skull face paint took the stage, gripping a wireless mic like a weapon.
So my divorce was final last month. She got the house, I got the cat, and the cat hated me. Now I live alone and argue with the microwave.
The humans erupted in a synchronized barking noise. Maria's secondary eyelids flickered with clinical curiosity.
You know what's great about credit card debt? It's the most honest relationship you'll ever have. It calls every day.
They laugh at financial pressure, at personal failure. The sound is almost aggressive. I should record this.
Samantha moved into a bit about her mother, and the laughter swelled again. Maria activated her diplomatic implant, the recording engaging with a faint hum. 40 minutes later, Maria returned to her quarters on the orbital station, the full set stored on her implant. She began the routine upload to the cultural database. By the next cycle, the Earth performance file arrived at Dr. Krav's neurological research wing. Tiz, his junior assistant, queued it for standard analysis.
Start with the Earth performance. The attaché flagged it as a public ritual.
The holo screen flickered on. The human comedian dove into a story about her mother. The audience erupted in that bizarre barking.
Look at the sync data. Their limbic systems are locking phase with the performer. Impossible.
It's like a shared emotional contagion. I've never seen a non-Vren performance trigger this. Should we halt?
Before Krav could answer, his own biometrics pinged a warning, respiratory rate accelerating in cadence with the recording.
The file left my implant hours ago. Why does my gut churn like I planted something volatile?
Tiz, terminate playback and isolate the file. This recording is a neural vector. It's actively hacking our system.
Tiz miskeyed. A mirror protocol copied the file to an archival server before quarantine sealed. The lab sealed with a hum, but on the adjacent server, the recording sat intact. The contagion was out within hours. A surgical nurse played a leaked clip. The comedian joked about loneliness, and the nurse started giggling. This giggle grew into a full, involuntary laugh. Colleagues stared, then one of them smiled. Inside the sealed lab, Krav's diaphragm spasmed again. He forced himself to think clinically.
The jokes are irrelevant. The social permission to laugh at pain. That's the trigger.
Doctor, the access logs show 37 views. The file is on every device in the wing.
Medical command ordered wing isolation, but the staff didn't care. They wanted to see more. In halls and treatment rooms, Vren gathered around holoscreens. their bodies quaking with alien laughter.
It's not a weapon. It's their technology for surviving fear. Our brains can't process the social permission.
But if it's not an attack, why are we all laughing? It hurts, Doctor.
The wing hummed with weeping laughter. The contagion had escaped. A maintenance worker in the medical wing downloaded the file out of curiosity. By shift end, it was on every civilian feed. At a manufacturing plant, a worker watched and began laughing uncontrollably. Between spasms, he confessed to embezzling from payroll. Within 72 hours, 16 million Vren reported their first laugh. Social media exploded with similar confessions. Workplace compliance dropped 90%. Supervisors heard truths they had never wanted to hear, and the old hierarchy began to crack.
This is a xenopsychic contagion. Classify it as a weapon. Shut it down before it destabilizes the entire system.
The council issued an emergency order to delete all copies, but the recording had already spread to every device on the continent. Citizens responded by flooding the capital. They held holo signs demanding to see the comedy. "Let us laugh," chanted the crowd. The protests were peaceful but unyielding. Officials caught in the crowd started laughing themselves, confessing sins to the cameras. The Vren home system was in freefall. A 400% spike in honesty had shredded the social contract, and the recording, unstoppable, played on. The contagion was now a revolution. In the industrial sprawl, a factory foreman began his morning briefing. 3 minutes in, he burst out laughing. Between wheezes, he revealed the payroll had been skimming credits for cycles. Similar reports poured in from every sector. Managers could no longer enforce orders. Employees spoke aloud what they had always thought. The military was not immune. A battalion commander stood before his troops and, mid-command, doubled over in laughter. Then he told them exactly what he thought of the war ministry. The council responded with martial law, a complete lockdown of the capital. Citizens answered by gathering in the largest peaceful protest Vren had ever seen. From his quarantined lab, Dr. Krav managed to send a single encrypted message to the public nets. Its contents were read aloud in every square. The laughter cannot be suppressed without destroying the Vren neural architecture. It is not a disease. It is a mirror.
Purge every copy immediately. Scrub the networks at the root level. I want this contagion erased from our civilization forever.
But the recording was already on every personal device. Copies had reached the outer colonies on automated supply drones. Loyalty fractured across the chain of command. Entire precincts declared they would no longer enforce the council's edicts. The old order was dissolving in real time, and the laughter would not stop. Inside the council chamber, a senior member began to laugh mid-testimony. He could not stop. Between convulsions, he confessed to an illegal assassination program targeting dissidents.
Silence. This contagion has turned our own chamber into a confessional. We are exposed.
On a distant diplomatic station, cultural attaché Maria watched the broadcasts. Her homeworld flickered in chaos, and a cold dread settled in her gut.
I recorded a harmless performance. I uploaded it. This inferno is mine.
The recall order arrived within hours. Maria was to return to Vren Prime immediately and answer for the cultural contamination. She landed to a world she no longer recognized. They placed her in a holding cell, not as a diplomat, but as a vector.
You brought a psychic weapon into our civilization. Do you understand what you have done, attaché?
But as the counselor spoke, his diaphragm twitched. He fought it, but a choked laugh escaped. Then another.
Even now, this thing, I confess, I envied the position. I wanted the first chair.
It is not a disease. It is the social permission to feel fear and release it. Humans use this to survive.
The council, desperate, ordered a planet-wide network shutdown. Every civilian channel went dark in an instant, but within hours, the squares filled with citizens who had memorized the human routine. They recited it aloud, word for word. They performed the divorce jokes, the credit card debt, the fear of dying alone. The crowds laughed, not from a transmission but from each other. Enforcement officers were sent to disperse the gatherings. They arrested performers, but inside cells, the laughter became a shared ritual. Guards who escorted the detainees began laughing with them. Arrests became confessions. They freed their prisoners and joined the crowds. By the third day, the capital's Central Education Authority declared the comedy a historical cultural artifact. Schools taught it as mandated curriculum. Students analyzed the social permission, the conversion of pain into communal release. They practiced the laughter under medical supervision. In her holding cell, Maria heard the recordings of these public reenactments, the voices of her people laughing with the same raw release she had witnessed on Earth.
I brought them a language for fear, and they are using it to rewrite their world.
The council's silence had been stolen. The contagion had become a culture, and the laughter would never be quieted again. Dr. Krav, his body still trembling from residual neural echoes, sat at his console. He drafted the paper with the same precision that had defined his career.
Human laughter is not a weapon. It is a neural technology that converts fear into communal resilience. They have evolved a controlled seizure that releases truth.
He sent the paper to a public journal despite the network lockdown. Tiz helped him bypass the firewalls, risking her career for the truth.
They will charge me with treason, but I have read your findings. If we cannot laugh at fear, we are already dead inside.
Within hours, the paper went viral off-world. Other species forwarded it to the Vren public nets faster than the council could scrub. Krav appeared on illegal broadcasts from his lab, his image flickering onto screens in every public square.
They laugh at what they fear: divorce, debt, death, and it makes them stronger. Our brains cannot down-regulate this cascade because we never evolved comedy. It is not a flaw, it is a mirror.
In her cell, Maria read the paper on a smuggled datapad. Her shoulders began to shake.
This tightness in my chest, the release. I am laughing. For the first time in my life, I am laughing.
Across the system, the Vren began to call the phenomenon the gift. The narrative had shifted. They were not victims, but recipients of a strange human technology. By the fourth cycle, a crowd of thousands had gathered outside the holding facility. Their chants for Maria's release shook the walls.
I release you only because the streets demand it. Now go out there and denounce this chaos you have caused.
I brought you a mirror. It showed you what you have always been and what you could become. What you do with it is your own.
The crowd erupted, not in laughter this time, but in a low synchronized hum, the Vren gesture of deepest respect. Hours later, Maria met with Krav and the leaders of the underground screenings in a defunct medical wing.
Doctor, the people want structure. They want to make these screenings a part of their lives without the cascade of chaos.
We need exposure protocols, limits, consent. The gift must not become a plague. I have drafted something.
Together, they drafted the first interspecies cultural ethics charter. It mandated supervised screening, contextual education, and medical monitoring.
I did not record a weapon. I opened a door. Now, we must teach people how to walk through it.
The charter spread as fast as the laughter had. Within a cycle, the first official Earth comedy screening opened under medical supervision, and the line stretched for miles. The leaked reports hit the Concord Council like a shockwave. The Vren civilization had been upended by 15 minutes of human stand-up comedy. A military coalition of 3 species demanded immediate quarantine of Earth. Their ambassador pounded the dais with a forelimb. Human delegates, summoned in haste, stared in disbelief as they were shown Dr. Krav's paper. They had no idea their comedy had done this. The debate raged. Some called it a weapon of mass awakening. Others, a psychic plague. The word laughter became a galactic slur. A single question split the chamber. Was humanity a bio-warlord species, or had they accidentally handed the galaxy a mirror? From Vren Prime, cultural attaché Maria requested remote testimony. Her image flickered onto the central hollow emitter.
Vren did not fall. We woke up. This human art form let us feel terror and release it together. We chose to change. Do not quarantine understanding.
Some delegates were moved. Others hardened. The chamber buzzed with fear and curiosity in equal measure. By session end, half the Concord moved to classify Earth comedy as a destabilizing technology. The other half secretly requested copies of the recording. In a single cycle, Earth became simultaneously feared as a biohazard and fetishized as a forbidden awakening. The galaxy was watching. On Vren Prime, Counselor Prime attempted one final broadcast. He stood before the camera, script in hand, eyes weary.
For the sake of order, I must. He faltered, and a laugh choked out. Then a laugh choked out. Then another. He could not finish.
In the Capitol Square, thousands watched on giant holoscreens. When the counselor laughed, they did not mock. They moved forward. They walked into the council chambers without force. Guards stepped aside. The people filled the seats, and no one was arrested. Before the end of the cycle, the remaining council members voted to dissolve, an act unprecedented in Vren history.
They are inviting us. Krav, we are to be cultural advisors to the Provisional Assembly. We must help them write something that lasts.
The preamble must include the right to honest expression. Not just speech, but the release of fear together. Laughter is a public health need now.
They worked through the night, drafting a constitution that began with the words, "We, the people, having been given the gift of laughter." By sunrise, the old Vren government had ceased to exist. In its place, a provisional assembly of citizens and former officials began to rebuild.
We did not fall. We broke open. And maybe, just maybe, the universe will let us stay broken in this way.
On Vren Prime, the sanctioned Earth comedy screenings unfolded like mass therapy. Citizens sat in circles, trembling with laughter, tears streaming down gray faces. A freelance journalist compiled the footage and sent it to Earth with a single line attached. "Thank you for your laughter." Samantha watched the footage in her apartment, a towel draped around her neck, skull paint half scrubbed. Her own face looked back from a sea of aliens.
They're laughing at my divorce, my debt. And they're not just laughing, they're letting go. I haven't even thought about that joke in months.
The next day, a formal hologram arrived. Cultural liaison Maria of the Vren Provisional Assembly, her gray features earnest.
Samantha Reyes, your art became the voice of a peaceful revolution. The Provisional Assembly of Vren Prime invites you to perform live. Please come.
Samantha's manager stood in the doorway, arms crossed, a tablet clutched nervously.
Aliens are having seizures from your set, and you want to walk right into that. It's too dangerous, Sam. Dangerous? Maybe, but I've spent my life spinning agony into jokes. Now, a whole species is asking for seconds.
She didn't answer. She just stared at the invitation. The skull paint on her dressing table mirror framing the hologram like a threat. Samantha paced her apartment. The hologram still floated by the mirror. She replayed her set in her head. Divorce, debt, fear. Every joke carved from a wound.
They laughed at my pain. Not at me, but at the fear behind it. I turned my mess into a mirror, and they're using it to see themselves. Hey, it's me. Remember how you said I'd never change anything? Well, a few billion aliens would disagree. I'm going off-world. Take care.
She ended the call and activated her personal recorder. She stared into the lens for a long moment before speaking.
To the people of Vren Prime, I am coming, but I am not a cure. I am just a woman who learned that the scariest thing in the room is usually the truth. See you soon.
She packed with deliberate movements, her leather jacket, the wireless mic, a tube of white face paint. No luggage, just the tools.
You are really going to stand in front of a bunch of gray-skinned people and joke about your mother?
Her manager watched her leave, shaking his head but saying nothing. The shuttle was waiting under Concord guard. She stepped aboard, the hatch sealing with a soft hiss. Outside, Earth receded behind her. Ahead, a star system that had rewired itself around her words.
All those years of open mics and bad coffee. Now I am the headliner for a revolution. Mom would have laughed.
As Samantha's shuttle entered Vren space, the Concord Cultural Commission issued an emergency injunction. Unregulated cultural exposure to a known destabilizing technology is prohibited. But the Vren people had already hacked the directive. On every public channel, a single message replaced the order. We consent. A flotilla of civilian ships, cobbled together from freighters and personal craft, formed a voluntary escort. Their running lights blinked in an old Vren salute.
Samantha watched from the viewport. A lump formed in her throat. They're not afraid. They're grateful.
She landed on Vren Prime as the sun set behind the spires. Maria stood at the base of the ramp, formal collar neat, eyes bright.
They've been practicing your set in shelters. The whole city knows your divorce jokes.
That's terrifying and kind of flattering.
The venue was an outdoor amphitheater carved into a hill. Every seat was filled with waiting gray faces.
Samantha's heart hammered. 15 minutes of jokes, and they'd toppled a government. Now they wanted the source.
The Concord warships hovered at the system's edge. But down here, the only law was laughter. A single spotlight caught her as she walked to center stage. The leather jacket, the skull paint, the hood pulled up. She looked like a myth stepping into the light.
So, I hear you've been laughing at my divorce. That's fine. It was a joke anyway.
Silence. Then a ripple, a discordant, stuttering noise. One Vren laughed, then another, until it caught like a wave.
Maria sat in the front row, her diaphragm spasming, and instead of fear, a wild joy surged. She was laughing, freely, without pain.
The live presence did something the recording couldn't. Samantha's timing, her breath, the space she left between words, it turned the amphitheater into a tuning fork.
You know, my mother used to say, "You'll die alone, Samantha, with only your jokes for company." She was right about the jokes, wrong about the alone part.
The punchline landed like a physical blow. The wave of release knocked a dozen spectators against their seatbacks. Medics rushed to assist. But the fallen Vren were laughing. They held up trembling hands in the old gesture for more.
Samantha felt the wave, too, a feedback loop of communal fear and release, stronger than any open mic. This was what they needed. This was the cure that wasn't a cure.
The amphitheater hummed with weeping laughter, and for the first time in Vren history, a live audience was fully, consciously, joyfully breaking apart.
Fear of dying alone. That's just the universe telling you to make better friends.
A low, synchronized hum rose from the crowd. The Vren gesture of deepest respect. The Concord Cultural Commission declares stand-up comedy a destabilizing technology. Transmission to unauthorized governments is now banned galaxy-wide.
Destabilizing technology. Best review I've ever had.
You gave us honest laughter. Now the Concord makes us criminals for it. I request asylum on Earth. I'd rather be a fugitive there than a caged leader here.
The ban changes nothing. Laughter is already a constitutional right here.
The ban spread, but on Vren Prime they celebrated. They had already glimpsed the mirror. Samantha held the proclamation in her hands, the same hands that had gripped a mic. The Concord could ban the signal, but not the echo. The laughter had already rewritten a star system. Samantha unlocked her apartment door and dropped her duffel. The silence felt heavier than the amphitheater. She unrolled the official ban parchment, a crisp, cold document in galactic standard.
This piece of paper says, "My jokes are a weapon." A whole civilization rebuilt itself on my mother's nagging.
She took a simple frame from her closet, the one that used to hold her first open mic flyer.
Destabilizing technology. Best review I've ever had.
She hung it above the mirror, next to a faded photo of her mother. The skull paint on her jaw was smeared, but her eyes held something new. a quiet, unshakable understanding.
Comedy is just knowing the scariest thing in the room and saying it out loud. We've always been a species that laughs at the dark.
She touched the edge of the frame. The ban was permanent now, a reminder of what her words had done. She left the bathroom, the leather jacket creaking as she moved. The apartment felt fuller now. In the new Vren assembly, citizens laughed openly during sessions. It was no longer a seizure, it was a shared heartbeat. On Earth, Samantha returned to small clubs. A new joke about aliens earned a knowing roar. The framed ban remained above her mirror, a silent testament to the power of words. Humanity never meant to weaponize laughter. It was the opposite, a technology for surviving horror. The Vren did not become weaker. They woke up, somewhere on Vren Prime. A child sat before a flickering projection of the human comedian. The child did not smile immediately. Vren children rarely did. But then, a slow twitch of the jaw. A giggle escaped. Human laughter, echoing across the stars, had found its last audience. A child learning to laugh at the dark. The ban was permanent, but the signal had already crossed the void. And somewhere in the galaxy, a joke was told, and someone laughed. The Concord ban held firm across most systems, but the laughter had already seated itself in 1,000 encrypted transmissions. On Vren Prime, the Provisional Assembly now opened every session with a collective laugh, a ritual of honesty that reminded them what they had overcome. Samantha's name became legend on Earth, the woman who crash-landed a star system with 15 minutes of divorce jokes. Her set still closed with the same line about dying alone, and every night, strangers in the back laughed a little too hard. They knew what it meant now. The framed ban still hung above her bathroom mirror, the galactic standard text now as familiar as her own reflection. Some systems quietly experimented with controlled comedy screenings. The Vren model, consent, education, monitoring, became the standard. The Vren child who had first giggled at the recording was now a young adult, and when she laughed, it was a full, fearless sound. Humanity's first contact with the galaxy had been a joke, and the punchline had rewritten a civilization. Laughter had never been a weapon. It was the technology a species develops when it lives with horror. It cannot defeat and learns to keep walking anyway. The ban remained, but the echo could never be silenced. And somewhere, every cycle, someone told a joke. In the deep quiet of her apartment, Samantha sat in her old reading chair, the leather jacket draped over the arm. The framed ban caught the light from the bathroom door, the only evidence that her words had crossed the void. She traced a finger over the galactic standard text, then touched the photo of her mother next to it.
You were right, Mom. The jokes were enough.
She returned to the chair, picked up her notebook, and wrote a single line. The scariest thing in the room is still the truth. But now I know a whole species who agrees. Across the stars, on Vren Prime, a child now laughed without hesitation, a gift passed from one species to another. No treaty could have achieved this. No official first contact. Just a woman, a mic, and the courage to say what scared her most. The comedy club lights dimmed that night, but the laughter echoed on, and between the stars, in the cold vacuum, a single, ancient human technology kept traveling. Laughter, the sound of fear defeated. She stood before the mirror, applying fresh skull paint with slow, practiced strokes. The framed ban still caught the light, but she no longer read it. It was just part of the wall now. She shrugged on the leather jacket, its creases mapping every open mic she'd ever survived.
Another open mic. Another room full of strangers.
The comedy cellar was packed, the air thick with the smell of stale beer and anticipation. She took the stage, the spotlight finding her smirk like an old friend.
So, I just got back from an alien planet. Great crowd, but the 2-drink minimum is a problem when they don't have mouths.
The room erupted, the familiar bark of human laughter bouncing off the brick walls. In the back, a new face watched, gray skin, a formal diplomatic collar, and tapped an implant on her wrist. Laughter, the oldest human technology still working.